What is the continuing relevance to our lives of Margaret Sanger? Why do we take the trouble to save and identify and file her books and papers and letters? What is the special quality of Margaret Sanger? Above all, strength and purpose. Having selected her goal, and none could be more important for our world, nothing could deter her from pursuing it. What is the background from which this extraordinary woman emerged? Corning, New York, late 19th century. Population of the United States around 50 million. 1/4 of what it is today. Her father, an independent free thinker. 11 children in all. A mother who died young. Margaret wanted to be a doctor. She had to settle on being a nurse. Hearth and home interrupted her career, but not her development. It was during this period that she became familiar with the feminists, and more broadly with the entire social reform movement which was helping to shape 20th century America. While her children were still young, she determined to go back to her nursing career. The place she chose was the Lower East Side of New York City, a slum neighborhood where all the abuses of the new industrialism were rampant. Here she saw that the poor have more children than they want, more children than they can care for. She saw how this kept them poor. She saw the burden of constant pregnancy. She saw death by illegal abortion. She determined to give up nursing, to defy law and convention. She started the American birth control movement. Her efforts aroused the fury of the self-appointed censor, Anthony Comstock. Under heavy federal indictment, she fled to Europe. In France, she tried to tap the old world folk wisdom regarding birth control practices. In Holland, she learned from the experience of the world's first birth control clinic. But it was in England that her lifelong involvement with research began, and for a year she virtually made her home in the library of the British Museum. Upon her return, the indictment was dropped. She promptly opened America's first birth control clinic. Within days, the clinic was closed, and Margaret Sanger was arrested. Offered freedom if she would recant, she preferred jail. She emerged with a sense of moral triumph. Voices of women from all over the country were reaching out to her.
Dear Mrs. Sanger, a word about myself will tell you why I'm writing this. Married at 20 to a laboring man, in 11 years I had 5 living children, 1 stillborn, and 5 miscarriages.
Dear Mrs. Sanger, I hate to bother you, but I'm desperate.
I have been married 15 years and have 6 living children.
Dear Mrs. Sanger, I'm married 2 years and have had 2 children 16 months apart.
Dear Mrs. Sanger, I'm writing you as a last hope of help. I'm the mother of 8 children and have nothing. I never expect to have, but just children.
It was in response to letters like these that she traveled from town to town, organizing Planned Parenthood clinics.
Don't think that I don't like my children. I surely do. I would give my life for one of them. I am writing to you, bearing my very soul, for you have the knowledge, and I want and need it.
With the end of World War I, Margaret Sanger began to look at the problem in an even broader context. She extended her travels to Asia. Here she saw with prophetic clarity what unchecked population growth would mean to the modern world. How it could help perpetuate the poverty of entire nations. She saw the terrible dilemma of a food supply which does not grow as fast as the number of people. As early as the 20s, she began the work which ultimately led her to establish the International Planned Parenthood Federation. She braved political and religious opposition by holding the first international conference on population planning.
It seems a pity that so enlightened a people as ours should draw from their lives so many fundamental truths, simply because when they are presented, they appear either sensational or shocking. Many people are horrified at the idea of birth control, while to me, it is simply the keynote of a new moral program. It is the sense of a new moral responsibility.
The opposition continued, particularly strong in the United States.
Moral convictions against the practice of contraception, and there are very many millions of seriously minded people, independent of denominational adherence, who think that it is immoral. There can be no question but that the lowering of moral standards and the lifting of all restrictions must result in a devastating downward pressure upon the standards of moral living in our country.
But gradually Margaret Sanger's views prevailed.
It was good news to us all